in the game,
Probably not. I
unless
mean,
very
if you
certain
keep
characters.
them, I would lower the like modifier on them to like 1.3 or something. I mean, it would change the way the game works a lot if you did that, but I think it would be better. And you might have to rebalance. Like maybe you need to buff some damage for some other heroes or something. I
Oh,
don't know, but
what
it's
about
like
just? I mean, if for me, I would probably take specifically a couple of abilities like scatter shot, headshotting someone. It's already
Yeah.
random enough.
That's what I was going to
Yeah.
bring up. I was
Doesn't
going to
need
say
that.
because doesn't it start to feel sometimes like a random crit in TF2?
I mean, they've already yeah, it definitely does a
Yeah.
lot of times, especially Hanzo.
Like,
Hanzo's like the worst. It's because it's just like I don't know. He's not that great. He's okay, and like you can just spam arrows and get headshots all the time, and that hitbox to get the headshots with the arrows is like very big. It's really frustrating because it just feels like there's nothing you can do against it, and it's like 90% of the time he'll miss, but then the other times he'll just die instantly, and it's just like, well, that's stupid, you know.
Yeah,
And it's like with
not much
the
in between.
yeah, and then it's like with the mechanics for building ult, it's really awkward because most of the heroes gain about the same amount of ult for taking damage as they do for dealing it. But when you take damage, your Mercy can heal that damage up, and then your team builds more ult charge than the other team did for dealing damage, which is like horrible because you're punished for dealing damage basically.
Yeah, I
And
that's
it
my
makes
biggest
characters like Junkrat like horrible in a lot of ways because you do tons of damage, but it's just all this damage that Lucio just heals up in the back because you can't finish people off from range with him. So there's a lot of awkward interactions like that that are like really frustrating, and it hurts the viability of some characters or like how they you think they might work. I guess.
Well, that kind of led to the same discussion we had last week, which was there's like ults are just happening so frequently because
Yeah.
you can't just farm ult abilities like that.
I think the point about Junkrat is a really good one though. I hadn't considered his whole character is designed around building ult for the enemy team.
Yeah, and then like
Right.
his ult, even if you build his ult by doing the damage, it's like not. It's like one of the worst ults in the game too. So it's like really awkward like to play him. He's okay in some parts and some maps because like doing that much damage is pretty good, especially if you have like classes that I guess can like follow up on it. But it's really awkward, and it's like so it's like okay that maybe that means the healing's too high because you can't do like all that chip damage and then like punish them for it. But if the healing wasn't high, it'd be kind of ineffective just because of the amount of damage that's in the game. So I'm not sure where the median point is. I think this is almost a problem they kind of had with Heroes of the Storm in some ways too, in terms of balancing healers. But
I just like to see them try things, right? Like I mean, the game's in beta. Obviously, this is a beta. Try something. Just try, like, throw it out there. Do something crazy for like a week and just see what happens. Just collect numbers, and that's what we're here for. All the people that are testing the game.
I think we said last week they've said they're changing Torbjorn and Bastion, but it won't be ready for until next year. We don't
Just do it.
throw it in. Just go.
Just throw it in. Just roll it in there. Roll it in there like a skee ball, and let's see what happens.
Well, I mean, they have to test it
That's always-
themselves first, guys. I mean, there's definitely some type of pre-testing they have to do before
Oh, pre-testing. Just get it in.
just throw it out there, and all of a sudden,
Just get. I don't even care if like my animations don't work.
To
Oh
a
my
certain
God.
degree, I would like to see them test more stuff and be less
yeah.
scared of looking perfect. Like Blizzard wants everything to look like we had the right idea the whole time, and here it is,
like,
fully polished.
it's like a problem, but not also because it's like okay, Blizzard is like everything is so great with them. It's like perfectly done and stuff, but it's like it just feels like their QA process takes way too long, and they can't like put updates into any of their games like at a timely enough fashion for the current like gaming
So
world, I guess almost.
I mean, at the same time, aren't we somewhat of the problem too? Like the reason that they don't do that. I mean, look what happened right with this
Maybe.
beta so far. It's like all these little things, whether it's no kill feeds, no this, no that. I mean, people are just not wanting to play the game just because of things that they're trying out, right? Not things that they're settled on.
I
And
think
so-
so far
Killfeed one is
every
a name,
balance
though, man.
change they've made.
I
the
know,
reason
but you know what I mean. It's
making sense.
it's like people don't treat this as a beta. People treat this as like a pseudo release for the actual game.
Every balance change they've made so far, I think, was a really good change that needed to be made. They haven't made that many. I mean, McCree got nerfed, he needed it. Mercy, they tried to. It was in the right idea, and they went for it, and it didn't work. Which again is what I'm happy to see that they've tried something. We know they're working on it. Everything like Widowmaker got toned down a little bit. They haven't done something that was just like dumb. So you could say that about the changes that they have made.
I kind of want them to do dumb shit.
If Jerma's saying try to do crazy things though,
I
I mean, not moderate things.
not necessarily dumb things, but just if they have all these ideas, right? They have all these things that they want to do, and we're gonna we'll put it through testing. We're gonna put it out like some point next year. It's like, well, if we're a beta, right? Beta is what are we supposed to be doing? Like the whole design of a beta is it's a beta testing. We're supposed to be testers. We're not supposed to be like marketing.
Well, that's
people,
what I'm saying.
Well,
I think some stuff has come out of the testing.
Yeah.
I didn't like Widow.
I mean,
She didn't get nerfed through any of the alpha. She went into beta and they nerfed her a little bit.
I mean, the Mercy thing is a weird one because, like, at BlizzCon, they've talked about they might nerf like the range of the ult or things like that, and it's like they could easily put that change in. I think Kaplan mentioned it in that video he did. He mentioned that they have other ideas too, and it's like they could easily have put any of these changes in just to test it some more, but they haven't. It's like why not? Like they're already considering these things. Like they could just gather more data, just have it in for a week, like they did with the original Mercy nerf or something.
Yeah,
I think usually
already shown that they'll do it.
Yeah, I think usually you'd be worried about like annoying your player base too much, and like there's too much of a meta, and we don't want to like change it. But no one's even playing the game yet.
I know
That's why like this is the
there's not enough
perfect
people
time.
in the beta to complain about the game.
Yeah, like not everyone's gonna be like, oh, I remember when Mercy you no, you don't.
I remember watching it when that happened. No.
The whole point of the beta though is
That's
also
true,
to
that's true.
complain and give feedback.
We're doing it.
Complaining is like the default form of that. Maybe that's not the most constructive way to do it, but
like I think there's a difference between complaining and like wanting to love the game. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, this game sucks. Mercy sucks. Torbjorn sucks. You suck. Like, no, it's not that. It's just these are things that as a lot of people are playing, they're finding that they want to see more changes, more balance issues come up, and it's not a question of like complaining about
we're just trying to improve the game. I mean, I think we all love the game. It's a matter of just trying to have it.
Everybody in this call likes the game a lot. It's a
Mhm.
question of we want the game to be very good.
I mean, it is frustrating that like it's been out for a couple weeks and still you like attack the last point, you kill the Mercy at the start of the push, and then she just respawns and literally in the spawn she just reses the entire team. It's just like you can't do anything about it. It's just stupid.
Yeah,
it's like
the global.
Why is that still in the game? It doesn't make any sense. It's just weird. And there's like so many ways they could deal with it that they just aren't trying yet. In terms of like on the beta server, which is kind of like the point of the beta, right? So I don't know.
And then we end the podcast and there's a patch.
Exactly.
Jerma was really
Great
pissed
job,
off
guys.
about like
Great
some of the
job.
Widowmaker and the Mercy damage boost and stuff, and going on about it. And like again, like the next day it was changed, and I was like, oh, what do you got to say now? So I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is hard to say things and not entirely know the direction they're going. I saw some complaints that like Blizzard they needed to be more vocal. I mean they did do the Jeff Kaplan, like he made the video, but
It would be nice to have like a regular thing.
What did he really say?
I think every game
might have a change.
Every game when it comes to the balance team or the designers, like we always want to know more. You know what I mean? And being as transparent as possible. I understand that when there's things that they haven't even just fully developed themselves, out just internally, but I have this feeling that they could tell us a little bit more. And maybe if Jeff did just more of these videos, right? Maybe even like once a week or twice a week or twice a month or something like that.
It seemed to be in a format that it probably will happen again. It's not like I don't want to make it sound like they are dead silent and they like don't.
No, definitely not.
They've done a lot. They've done a lot. They've done a lot of things in this last at least 2 or 3 months. They've scrapped whole projects. They're redesigning things, and this is not. The four of us all ganging up on Blizzard talking about how bad they are and balancing their beta. It's just, it would be nice. I mean, this day and age, right? The world we live in, the gaming world we live in now, is very open. A lot of devs, many devs, open up their games to everybody. They tell them everything. And when Blizzard is one of these kind of secretive, closed off kind of companies where they don't talk a whole lot about what they're working on, a lot of people get upset because it's just kind of the status quo right now to be an open game dev and like talk about everything you're doing. It's just kind of what it's like now.
Yeah.
Especially when you're trying to like have maybe a microtransaction model, which we don't know for Overwatch.
Exactly.
You assume that's kind of the direction that will happen with, some of the things that have
yeah, with the
minor
monetization, I feel like they don't have that completely mapped out yet. So that's probably why they haven't said much about it. But in terms of the balancing and design of the characters, they probably could give us a little bit more insight as to what they're trying, or what they're doing. I know, like in StarCraft, for instance, it's been like years of progression to the point where finally the balance team literally posts almost once a week as to what they're trying with this. And there's test servers too that we can all try things, they're trying things out on. And so it took years and years for StarCraft 2 to get to that point. And hopefully Overwatch can get there a little bit faster. Even Hearthstone too. Like, of course, the entire community is always like, what's up with this card, or what's up with this card, and the team's like constantly trying to answer these questions each and every week. So it's a common issue. It's a common issue.
The balance issues are another thing where it's just like the game's so new and people haven't played it, where it's really hard to like, even like the competitive community, it's really hard to know what's really right. Or how the balance really works out, because things really constantly change. I mean, like last week, everyone was talking about, D.Va is still obviously the big topic, but last week everyone was talking about how it was so super OP because we, used 2 D.Vas basically on everything to beat Hubris or whatever. But this week it's like, I don't think doing that is that viable on most maps, maybe in some sections or for certain things you're trying to do, especially in part because now Widow's not used, but maybe, that's also, Widow's not used as the nerf, but also because of the D.Va, it's hard to tell. So, it's like, things are just constantly changing. You don't really know.
Well, you need sample size,
or how things are going to work. Yeah,
you need sample size, and you want the players to innovate and actually try to fix the meta themselves, right? Or figure out a different meta themselves, and figuring out how much time is necessary for that to happen before it is required. Like some type of change is required is a tricky thing, and it's.
I mean, that said, there are like binary issues, I guess. Like the Widow nerf, I think, was definitely deserved, in part because. Like there were things like D.Va could kind of counter Widow or get on Widow and kill her, but if you kill like the D.Va or something, the Widow can just kill your whole team, and there's literally nothing like anyone can do about it a lot of the time, especially because her mobility allows her to reposition, get above everyone. So it's like things like that were just too punishing, I guess, in terms of like the way the counters worked out, which I don't think is very good for the game. If like you have to like have this class to really, really hard counter this class, or this other class will just completely destroy you. Which is kind of like where that was. And right now it kind of feels like Pharah might be near that place, because in part because people aren't running Widow as much, so it's hard to tell, but it might be there. I mean, I think she might need like damage drop off on her rockets at range or something, like TF2 style, but we'll see.
Ster, you're gonna say something?
Everything's in a. I do like the general balance of where everything is, but I think the main point was going back to like, we know that they know that Mercy's ultimate is stupid.
Yeah. I mean, Mercy's ultimate,
even as a temporary change, I feel like that wouldn't have been that hard.
There's nothing you can really like adapt, like counter that with. So yeah, that's a change.
I would really like to see some big experiments with how ultimates are built and stuff like that, and
even just making it like 20% slower build or something that would help. Like I think they should reduce the amount you build from taking damage, because I think it's like too rewarding. I mean, obviously you would need like anti-snowball mechanics somehow, but I don't know. There's a lot of weird things, and it's like hard to figure out.
Put them all on a cooldown. We got
that might actually work. I mean, I feel like that would be kind of awkward, because a lot of teams just wait for certain moments, because you don't want moments where they're
I think that's another thing that actually is good. Like a lot of the casters are saying, it's so chaotic and there's so much going on. You never know when someone has an ult. Like you could be able to actually build up to these moments where like it's about to happen. This is what we're going to see, guys.
I mean, that could be. It might be a good
UI issue as well for a spectator. You know what I mean? Being able to know exactly how much percentage somebody has at any given moment.
Yeah, it is, but it's also like, I mean, the way it builds is not, obviously non-linear. Like Reaper can have 50% ult. It's like, oh, he's not going to get it for a little while. Jump in and then hit 3 shots or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. We talked about last week. We talked about how like ult should be slower.
Yeah, there should be less of them.
How much slower? Yeah, that's.
And the other, they're still awkward in a lot of ways too. It's like on defense, you can say you use 2 ults to wipe their team. Is that good? Like you just basically gave them ult advantage. That means they're going to respawn and push you with all their ults.
It is very awkward. The more you think about it, the more you realize, wait, I should not have killed that person because they didn't have ult. I gave it to them. Now they have it. Like, I shouldn't be fighting people in this FPS game.
I mean, delaying them and getting that extra time by forcing them to respawn is a good thing, but it's like, is it valuable enough. I don't, you know,
Yeah,
you
I
don't,
mean, it definitely can be more valuable to have the
there's a
teams
lot of really
synced up.
awkward things like that
Yeah.
with the way the game currently works. And I'm not really sure how to fix that problem. Like you could make it so that they lose ult charge when you kill them, so it's more valuable, but that could have a host of other problems too. Like then you'd have even more snowballs. Like right now, you even can get snowballed in some maps by like Zarya ults because she Zarya ults, they wipe your team, and she builds it so fast that she just has it again, like even before you get your own ults back because she did a bunch of damage while wiping you or whatever. And that
they did take that off of May. May used to build ult while her Blizzard was out. They could do the same for a couple characters, but I feel like there's a much larger, more complicated problem behind the individual characters building their ult too fast.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like there's a lot of really hard issues, I think, with the way those interactions work right now. Where
but they can experiment with it, though. I mean, that's definitely something they can immediately try.
Experimentation.
Yeah, in the alpha, I'm pretty sure that early on, Symmetra's teleporter was on a 45-second cooldown. It was like not like the other.
Was it really?
At all.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure.
That's...
I mean, Symmetra's teleporter has, I don't know. It has so many issues. I mean, it's like really frustrating if you actually get it and then you put it down and then like Genji can right click twice.
No, right.
It's dead. And it's just like you can't stop that from happening. He's just so mobile. He gets there. Like, what do? You know, it's just like.
There's an issue too sometimes with your teleporter where it's like
ruins the whole effectiveness of your character, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, there's definitely.
I don't know. There's a lot of weird issues, and like I you know, like you said, the general balance is good. In general, it's good. Even if you're like running, you know, Lucio, Reinhardt, Mercy, or something all the time, it's still pretty good overall. And most of the characters have some kind of niche, or they're at least viable some way, I think. But it's like there's only 21 characters, and they're not going to add any more later. So. And they've said they don't want, you know, certain characters to be required at all. So it's like, how do they fix that problem for like Lucio and Mercy right now when there's only the 4 supports?
Yeah,
and
I don't think
they have
problem kind of already exists, is what you're saying.
You know, yeah. So it's like how I don't know how they deal with that. I mean, obviously you can make Symmetra more powerful, so maybe she is viable, but on certain niche points of certain sections of maps or something, and not as a full-time healer, which could work. I mean, Zenyatta I think could be fixed in some way too. Or maybe the meta shifts where people get better at him and he is a little more viable or protect him better. But I don't know. It's like it's really tough to see how they like handle some of those things, I guess.
Yeah, so do it now. Want more changes and be more vocal about it. Do it now.
All right, guys. Well, why don't we take some questions now? For those of you that have some, there's definitely some that's posted in the ChanManV.tv post here. But if you have any questions that you want to ask us right now on the show, go ahead and tweet it to @ChanManV, or you can post it in this this website post, which I will put in the chat right now. Either one will be I'll take a look at. But first question is a question from last week that I didn't get a chance to ask. A question for Ster and Jerma. Considering your big roles back in the TF2 community, what do you plan going into the future? Are you going to be community figureheads for both? Will you stay with Overwatch and not look back, or will the Overwatch interest soon deteriorate? Coming from a longtime fan. P.S. Everybody wants to see this happen. Everybody wants to see what happened. What do they want to see happen? Exactly.
That's a gag from like 2012.
Yeah, I think right now for the both of us, like as a general, we're both being flexible. I don't know. I'm trying my hardest to like stick with Overwatch and see where it's gonna go and like do everything I can to stream. But at the same time, no one's playing it yet. So like, should I keep going? Matchmaking for TF2 is still gonna come out. So
I mean,
I'm waiting to see.
Is matchmaking gonna come out?
Is it? Is it ever?
Is it gonna come out?
That's a good question.
Honestly, I think it's just whatever I'm gonna have fun with is what I'm gonna play, and it doesn't matter what the game is. I mean, I could play Overwatch for 6 months straight. If I'm having fun, I'm going to keep playing it. Or, you know what? I might load up TF2, matchmaking comes out, some more updates come out. If I have fun in TF2, I'm going to play TF2. Whatever I play, just be damn well knowing it's what I'm currently having fun with. It doesn't have to be Overwatch or TF2. Either one.
All right. So that was from Renee Moheritich. Another question, Eric Slinning Courseness. Okay, a lot of years here. What's the hardest part of transitioning from, this is for all of you guys, what's the hardest part for transitioning from TF2 to Overwatch? For example, do you find yourselves having to kick habits from TF2 gameplay to get better, or are things about Overwatch that completely goes against things you've learned from years of playing TF2?
I think the first 4 hours that I started playing, like 4 or 5 hours of just being in Overwatch, it felt so odd. The rockets on Pharah, I couldn't predict a single shot. The speed of the rockets, just like everything
The
takes
Quake
you a
rockets.
little while to adjust to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you're like, oh no, I get it. Everything makes a lot of sense. Like from playing TF2, like a scout's awesome. I love playing a scout. I thought I'd like Tracer. I don't know. At best, I realized I don't like Tracer. I thought like it doesn't line up because it's not really a shotgun. But other than that, it's
Ultimates.
an FPS game.
Pretty
It
similar.
was ultimates for me. It was knowing what ultimates did what when people were going to typically use them,
It's like,
and which ones can instantly kill you. Were the ones that were the hardest for me.
yeah,
I
you're
used
gonna
to
get
really mad at
instantly killed by
Tracer.
one.
Those of you that watch my first like couple of streams for the game of how irritated I would get at Tracer, I just didn't get like the instant like did the stuck on you boom. It's just like what just happened to me? I'm playing a first person shooter. Why am I instantly dead? That type of stuff
Okay.
is like ultimates really.
Yeah, I mean, figuring out like when you're going to get one shot or not is probably one of the hardest things to figure out. I think in TF2, it's a lot more forgiving in that regard. Like, you know, if you peek and take spam or something, you're not just going to die instantly because there's damage drop off on everything in the game other than sticky traps, right? So,
Yeah.
that's probably the biggest thing. And then there's all the ultimates to put into contention. I mean, I think in a lot of ways it does play fairly similar. I mean, I don't know. I haven't played like TF2 in so long that, you know, I guess for me it was maybe an easier transition to Overwatch. So I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing though, is like figuring out when you can actually like fight people and not get instantly killed.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is to know who to respect when. I think the first biggest lesson I got was I should not go stand near a McCree. I will die.
Right.
I'm at the point now too where I feel like everyone needs to learn. Like scattershot it insta kills you. Like just identify you're around a corner. He's about to shoot it. Like you can stand in a position where it's like less likely to splash you. And
All right, Jeff P.
learn the counters.
Jeff P. from Twitter asks, do you think there's room for other people to run tournaments with Gosu running weeklies? Seems difficult to attract teams so busy.
We pretty much talked about this in the beginning.
Yeah.
You need to be Mr. Moneybags and have a reason why people would play in yours instead of
Bags.
yeah.
Just need more players. More people.
What other reason besides money would people join your tournament instead of Gosu Gamer?
Well, I mean, you could set up a different
We're not
format.
a
I know you dressed up like a
organization.
fucking clown. What if you were the only guy that was dressed up like a clown? Oh, you can play in all these other tournaments, but is the guy running it dressed like a clown?
How would you know that before the
true.
tournament?
You'd make a post on r/Overwatch and say, "Hey, I'm the clown
Do you
man."
really want a clown caster?
Yeah.
Dude, why not, man?
You serious?
Bozos
Yes.
weeklies. Dude,
It is
that might-
It is 2/11. The date is Monday, the 30th of November, 2015. Patent pending. I just came up with that. I'm gonna be the clown caster.
Hey man, you gotta do something to differentiate yourself. I think there's still room. I don't think at this point you need giant prize pools to do it. I mean, oPlaiD, you could obviously speak to this, but I think that it's just about coming up with some kind of unique aspect to your tournament. You know, whether it's a format kind of thing or it's a
Right now, people
maybe-
are still trying out formats where I think
Yeah,
that's enough
it's-
to get people to try things. That's the whole reason. Well, a big reason why Fish Sticks was like, hey, there was no stopwatch in Sombrero. There's no tournament this weekend. Let's host one.
Yeah, and Joshy the King of the Watch, right? That's a King of the Hill format.
Yeah.
That's a different type of thing. So I guess Huber's on this week.
It's
so
all
Huber's
getting
the plan.
grabbed up quickly though. This is the end game.
Yeah. This isn't like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, where
Yeah, I know.
people.
2 years ago in Overwatch, there was
No. I mean, just generally where people, weren't starting these type of weekly events. Everybody's pretty savvy to all this stuff, so things are starting quick.
And hey, it's only on Sundays, right? Gosu Gamers, there's
Yeah,
still Saturday.
there's still weekdays too, which is. I mean, I'm just scared that we're gonna have way too many things, and that's gonna be. I mean, that's great for you, oPlaiD, as a player, but as a viewer, like, I don't want to be seeing Hebers versus not Enigma every single day of the week. I mean, we can watch a lot of those scrims, anyways.
More players, more teams will form. That's all.
Yeah, that's what we need. We just need more teams right now to help facilitate. Okay, let's see. Next question we have from Maciej Sprauka, Poland. He's like a regular person that asks questions. With a hefty price tag in comparison to TF2, which is free to play, or even Dirty Bomb, do you guys think it will be possible to build a big enough player base to sustain the game for years? Watching the streams, it doesn't seem like a game that would go as big as other cheaper class-based FPS games did.
Well,
unfortunately, you go ahead.
Back in the day, TF2 used to cost money.
Yeah.
TF2 for a long time was a standalone product that you could buy outside the orange box. You could buy it on Steam. And think of how that game was before unlockables, right? TF2 before any unlockables that were in the game, it took like at least a couple of years for that to happen, right? 2008 to like late 2008 is when the first unlockable was in the game. Something like that took like at least a year. People played that game a lot. There was a lot of people that played. That was pay to entry. TF2 was a fantastic game, 9 classes, and that was pretty much what you were paying for. It wasn't until that big free-to-play update where they made the game free-to-play and had all these hundreds of unlockables in the game that, I mean, a lot more people did start to play, but it's not like TF2 was some unknown game that nobody cared about before the free-to-play update. I mean, all of us in this call were probably playing it at that time. So I don't think it's necessarily an issue. TF2 was like $20, but
it is hard to compete with the fact that TF2 also has existed since then.
Yes.
It's not like it doesn't exist right now, and Overwatch is like the new one.
Right.
Because there are still games, there are still like Dirty Bomb and all this other stuff going around. And unfortunately, the biggest thing going for this game right now is that it's a Blizzard game.
It's also going to be on consoles too. I mean, it
is.
You know, that's a large player base. That's a large viewer base.
Oh,
too.
so was TF2.
I mean, that's like
it was also released on console as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the
never got
console
the one
thing makes a big
update.
difference, especially because like you don't play with or against each other, right? Like the console's its own separate thing.
Did TF2 ever even patch one exploit or anything in? Did they ever give one patch to the consoles?
I don't think they did.
Didn't they like
Barely said.
abandon
No
all
love,
development
dude,
on
for
console after they like launched it?
I think there was some licensing thing with they didn't want to pay Microsoft to like have to patch the game,
Oh my
like,
God.
stupid, so they never did it.
Yeah, well, I guess to answer your question, I think we think that it can sustain for years to come. That's for sure. It's just a matter of how big it can get.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
The developers are very into continued support. Blizzard isn't going to make it like a new IP and go, I guess that was it. Have fun, everyone. Like,
6 months. That's
might
it, guys.
take a couple years.
They released Diablo 2
like-
patches like 10 years after the game was out. You know,
But think about how many games.
they're like the original developer that was doing that support. So
Yeah.
How old is
Blizzard only has a
Counter-Strike?
few games. Like Blizzard doesn't have they're not like a huge it's like EA or Activision. I mean, technically, I guess they are kind of Activision, sort of.
They are Activision. Yes.
Yeah,
but
I guess
Okay.
Blizzard, it's a
Really?
double. There are two. I lost my train of thought. Oh, okay. So when you have like less than 6 games, you have like 4 franchises to care about, to worry about. It's not like they're gonna release Overwatch and be like, yeah, remember that game we made that was like fun like 7 years ago, Overwatch? No, they're gonna support the hell out. It's all online. They're gonna support the hell out of this game for years. Blizzard doesn't really abandon titles. Look at like Diablo 3. Diablo 3 still. Everybody had an issue with Diablo 3 at launch. They rebooted the whole game. They got rid of the lead designer. They brought in a new guy. They put it on expansion. They put out like a dozen patches. Like don't worry about it.
Everyone says Heroes of the Storm is like a dead esport that like no one watches it, no one plays it.
Right.
It's not true.
Yeah, it's not true.
But if like Heroes of the Storm is already so much bigger than TF2 is, and if you're saying TF2 is the direct comparison in terms of like a competitive thing, I don't think Overwatch can be any smaller than Heroes of the Storm was. So it's not like there's a death sentence at the end of this beta.
I mean, the question though is like, is it going to be bigger than like the other competitors that are coming out? You know, like Paladins or Battleborn or Lawbreakers or whatever.
You just named a bunch of
like
not good games.
You know, different games coming out that are in this kind of genre.
Hey, yeah, that's not a fair thing to say.
I think that's going back to it's a Blizzard game, and it automatically gets put to the top of that list by a lot of people who aren't going to go Lawbreakers might be a lot of fun, but I don't think it's going to break into like the big esports scene in the same way that Overwatch could easily be in that same space.
How much Paladins did you play? How much fun did you have playing
I
Paladins?
probably played about 10 hours of Paladins. It's pretty fun.
You enjoyed it.
It's also like a lighter experience. Like it's easy just to go in there and just shoot people and have fun, but I think it doesn't have the same depth as like Overwatch does in terms of like the interactions that you have in the game.
Also, like 3 years behind in development.
Competition breeds innovation.
Well,
so
and
happy we're getting a bunch of them.
You guys compare you brought the Heroes of the Storm comparison too, Ster. Heroes of the Storm is completely different too, because when Heroes of the Storm was introduced into a genre of game that already had two heavily entrenched, competitors, esports. With Overwatch, there's not.
Here's the Storm's also completely different though, because it's free to play, and Overwatch won't be. So that's something that like makes a difficult comparison as well.
Yeah,
I mean, which is kind of like the initial question, right?
I still think not having competitors, like entrenched competitors, like going into the esports is a bigger thing, though. I think that allows for Overwatch to have a little bit more flexibility than Heroes of the Storm did.
I'm just saying, as a class-based FPS, I think it will be the biggest in its genre in terms of competitive nature. But how big that means, that doesn't mean like Counter-Strike big, League big.
Doesn't have to be, guys.
Small pool.
Like, it doesn't have to be the biggest.
I mean,
esport.
It doesn't
it
have to
be a successful esport.
Yeah, it's gonna do fine.
Yeah,
it's gonna do fine. But my worry is that just they're kind of capping the growth in terms of like the systems they'll have behind it. Like, I think high-res studios and Valve do a good job of like supporting the scenes with these other systems, like the in-game item systems that they have that allow teams and players to kind of monetize esports in a different way, or they help build the community in a certain way that adds more spectators and viewers. Like, I'm not sure that what Blizzard will do that can kind of like attract that kind of audience. I mean, I think they've done some things with Heroes of the Storm that are kind of similar. Like, they gave away Cho'Gall for watching DreamHack, right? Like this last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of like, that's like nothing compared to like what happens in like Valve or CS or something, right? Where like every single event you get sticker packs or whatever, and all these sorts of.
They're getting there though. They're at least showing progress in terms of that sort of microtransaction, just micro content and offerings and things like that.
Isn't it true as well that I think this goes for like all Blizzard games, even Hearthstone was the one where I remember hearing about it, that they don't have like a Hearthstone API to hook into for people to create like stats.
Yeah, that's another big worry. Like, there's not going to be as many third-party services because they're more. I guess they're keep things tighter to the vest in terms of like their systems. They don't let other people have the same kind of access to them and things like that. Where like with Dota and CS or TF2, you have all these you have these betting sites that are able to hook into the inventories or trading sites or all sorts of things like statistics. Obviously, like all the log sites for TF2, you get all this information. Those kind of things probably won't be there for a game like Overwatch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Blizzard has to implement a lot of those things themselves if they do it. So
they could implement an API that just selected data.
They could, but they haven't really.
It's not on their radar.
Yeah, but that's something they do later. I mean, they have all these things we've been talking about to do with the game. The API is definitely later on the priority list, I'm sure, for them.
Don't allow something like that. Your first party alternative has got to be good. And I think they know that, and hopefully they're working tirelessly on getting that situated, because if you don't have options for people third party, your first party better be damn good.
That's something that, like with World of Warcraft, they got better, but it took years and years and years and years, like in terms of like giving more access to allow people to make custom UIs and add-ons and stuff. And a lot of the ones that were good, they added themselves to the game basically. So that would be nice if that was possible, but they've been pretty. In a lot of things they've said they don't want to see a lot of that customizability, I guess, with Overwatch, or they don't expect that to be a thing. So it is a little worrisome.
I mean, I feel like with Overwatch, the IP is heavily marketable outside, like in other medias too, right? I mean, people have already been talking about animated series and it's like movies and stuff, and maybe even merch and toys and stuff like that. So I think they, to your point, they might be more protective of that. They don't want to see people wearing like a
I think at least for launch too, there's the fact that they're having a console release. Like, oh hey, we're having a console release, but if you buy it on PC, there's also like community maps and all this API hooked into it, and you can't. I feel like they would have to focus on one or the other, or at least focus on this post-launch, simply because there's a console release.
All right,
Okay.
next let's see. Let's move on a few more questions here. I see. Just imagine asks, what's the best way you would recommend to someone who wants to get into casting Overwatch, and to go about it? Basically, what would you recommend for that? Or how would they go about it?
Well, you Chanman, no, ask Joshy. I don't really know him. He was just doing it.
Yeah,
a
just
lot.
do it. Yeah, just I mean, Joshy's probably the best example of somebody that started from the beginning and basically willed himself into casting, right? Just by casting scrims on his streams like almost every night for I don't know how many weeks straight, and I think that's probably the best way to do it because you gotta. If you're not known to some of these organizations, then you have to make yourself known, right? And doing that sort of thing on your stream just shows that you're super passionate about it, and then it actually shows if you're talented at doing it or not. If you're not quite there, then it's good practice too for you to just get used to casting, because casting isn't a very natural thing to do. For some folks it is, but for a lot of folks it's not a natural thing to do. So you need to practice doing it. But yeah, just trying to get in on some of the scrims and even just scrimming whatever matches, just any kind of high level matches that you can get in on. That's what I would do. Okay, let's see. Two more questions here. Everything is all about $40 here. Oh, here's a good one.
This is the question.
I just refreshed. Okay, Philip S. Dalgard. What are your opinions on the arguably anti-skill, i.e. aimbot, wall hack, etc. in Overwatch? Do they have a place in skill-based, potentially esport FPS games?
The only thing I don't like Widowmaker's ult at all. Just giving everyone a wall hack. I think it needs to be adjusted in some way, but like the auto aim of 76 is really not that easy to get more than one guy with, because then the Reinhardt shield comes up and it's just like you're not doing any damage to anything. I don't think, and it lasts for like 4 seconds.
The funny thing with the 76 ult is that like it body shots people. You can actually do more DPS if you're like headshotting like Roadhog. You like can't kill Roadhog with it. You do more DPS if you just start headshotting him like with your normal rifle than you do actually ulting.
It also auto aims your Helix rockets, but doesn't predict movement. So
it doesn't. That's true.
It does not predict their movement.
Yeah, it's a bad ult. I mean, so that one's not.
Yeah.
Not
I mean, it can pick out someone on the back lines.
It's still good.
Yeah.
Like the way you should use it. I mean, at least in competitive games, you use it to basically kill their Pharah or Mercy. Like a lot of characters can't kill them, but if you just use aimbot, you can just if they're flying in the sky, you just click it and they can't even escape really. So that's like that's how you should use a lot of those ults, is to pick off like high priority targets at like the right moment, I think, with something like that. Okay. But I think there is a lot of like, there's a lot of timing and ways to deal with it where it's not like that big of a deal, like that these things are in the game. Although I do agree about the wall hack, because it's just, for one thing, you don't know when you're getting wall hacked often because the audio cue is very, very quiet. And then there's basically no counterplay to it. It's like, okay, they know where I am. Like I can't do anything. I just have to wait till it's over.
And then they know that you're waiting and can
Right.
It's just someone else will come kill you that had nothing to do with their ultimate.
There's like no interaction to it. Like with the 76 ult, you can at least like, okay, I need to hide, or I need to get behind this Reinhardt shield, or maybe there's a way we can kill him really quickly or something. There's things you can at least do during the couple of seconds where it happens. But with the Widow, it's just like, well, they're just going to outplay us right now because they can see us.
I actually like Hanzo.
Wall hacks, I don't think they belong in any game. I really don't. I mean, the only game I think that I like the wall hack kind of is Blacklight Retribution, and everybody had it. So it wasn't like a one specific thing that one character had. I think giving it to one person and not like everybody, I just hate wall hacks. I hate seeing that kill cam when you turn the corner and you just watching your walk down a hall with the Widowmaker just sitting at the end of it waiting for you, and you're like, what do I do?
Is it more frustrating if the Reinhardt just randomly fire strikes the corner and it kills you, or if he saw you and then he does it? Like which one's more tilt inducing?
I was gonna say though, I do like Hanzo's wall hack, because a lot of the times where you place Hanzo's arrow, you have to kind of already know someone is probably about to come there anyway. It's not just an everywhere all the time. I kind of wish it had like a little bit of, I think there's a sound to it there might be, but I wish it was like.
I almost think the audio cue for it's like more noticeable than the Widow one, even though like you can hear the arrow.
You can hear it.
The
But I
Hanzo
wish I had
bubble
my
sounds.
He
Yeah.
also says like
No.
something. He says something when he does it.
Through the dragon's eyes.
Marked by the dragon or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Okay, Joseph Mihan, last question. Santa Clara University, how does map balance feel currently? Generally speaking, I guess. I mean, we could go through individually one, but
What does balance mean?
I
in
think
this
from a
context?
standpoint of attacker defender. I mean, it's always attacker advantage, right? But are they
Yeah.
reasonable?
I think again, it just comes down to the respawns for some of the maps where defenders just keep piling on at the end. It always comes down to overtime, where they can run out of spawn as Winston's divas quicker than you can get back to deal that damage.
Not necessarily a balance thing, but I just think there are too many roads to nowhere on some of these maps. That
Dead ends, you mean?
roads to nowhere, like that just don't go anywhere. They just, like they end it like it's like, oh, I'm gonna walk in this hallway. No, it's just a room.
Oh, okay.
You have an example?
I don't think so about that. I mean, I feel like the maps in general are very well designed in terms of the architecture. I think that there's a decent variety in that most of the areas get some play. Although some of the maps, like on like Hanamura or something, there's like yard areas where, there's always those yard areas between the CP1 and the CP2 where like not much happens because the defending team, it's like too risky for them to push up there to defend when they can defend closer to the point or the spawn. Especially when like Tracer can easily just get past anything you have and just go, back cap kind of. So
yeah.
I always say I really like the choke points in the game. It was the first
me
thing
too.
that would be easy to criticize and look at like Hanamura point 1, everyone has to squeeze through this hole. But it becomes more about how are they going to get through the hole, get through this tiny choke, because there's a lot of ways to do it. It's not like it's impossible.
The other thing is,
the game lends itself well to the chokes.
I mean, the chokes work better in the game because of things like Reinhardt, where like there's this new dynamic that hasn't been in any other game where you can like peek a corner safely because you have the shield, which is I don't think has ever really been in any other FPS game that's like ever been released. So that kind of makes things interesting. The other thing is that like on Hanamura, like the spawn is so far away for the defenders in the point 1 where it's like you can rush in 6 guys, and if you get 2 kills, it might be worth it because you can get back there and then rush them 6v4, after you respawn basically. So that kind of makes it like difficult to hold those first points. But from a competitive standpoint, in terms of map balance, like the 2 CP maps just kind of suck. I mean, I think that's the general consensus. Like no one scrims Volskaya, no one plays Anubis much. Hanamura was played some, but mostly I think it was because it was one of only 3 maps available during the stress test. So you kind of forced to play it.
Yeah, I love the control points way more than the payload, but excluding the fact that the spawn points at the end can just be like Diva rush, like we all go Diva and can get out here so quickly. Besides that, I feel like they're more coordinated, strategic. Payload to me,
there's a huge problem
like a big DM
with
fest.
2 CP maps where it's like even the 2 best teams, you could have like a 2-minute game, and it's just like kind of you rush in, you get a couple kills, maybe you just get a random lucky headshot or something. You get your ults, you cap the point, and then you just wipe them at last because there's nothing they can do because they don't have ults and you do. And it's just like a 2-minute game, and that'll happen way more often than you might think. And I don't think that there's like ways that are reasonable to like stop that from happening for the defense, especially like.
Well, what about the best of 3 format that you're playing, and do you think that helps at all?
If I had that would definitely help that in some ways. But it's still like this weird coin flip, or maybe if the meta becomes more developed, it's like rock paper scissors on like the first point of maps, because like you don't see what the attacking team has. You don't know what they're running at the start, and as the defense, you can't adjust. Your spawn is so far away from the first point, like there's no way for you to adjust to what they have after you see it or something. So if they just pick something that beats what you have, you just lose, basically. If both teams are playing.
Well, then what if you don't even hold it? You just hold the last point.
Yeah,
Go to last.
You could, but then that's like what's the
Don't do
point of the
anything
map
else.
then? Like that's
6 Torbjorns. Just sit on last.
I don't know. I mean, that's like I think that's like a bad dynamic for. It's still bad dynamic on like maps like King's Row where there's a first point.
Yeah.
But it's like mitigated more because the payload gives more opportunities for teams to recover basically than it does on like the 2 CP maps. So I'm not sure like what to do about that. Like you could have like a draft where you can see what the attacking team has beforehand, so you can kind of pick around
and
that.
Just switch.
Yeah. Well, you can make it so they can't switch till they die or something the first time they die. But yeah, it's like awkward, and then that adds like all this extra time to a game where it's like just for one death, it doesn't really make much sense. So I don't know. It's really awkward, and I think that the 2 CP maps really exacerbate that problem because I don't see how they can like fix that issue necessarily. Maybe you can make the defenders spawn have like a close spawn or something. And
well, then doesn't it come back to again just how ults build? So, because they can't defend the last because they don't have ults and they died and they gave.
I mean, somewhat, but how are you going to fix that? It's just the same as like having an Uber advantage in TF2. Like people roll rounds all the time, and like Badlands or whatever, you wipe them at mid and then you have Uber, you go into last and you win. I mean, sometimes you defend, but in TF2 you're playing best to 5 or 30-minute games, so the rounds that get rolled like that just go into like the big list of the whole match. They're just one round. It's not like, oh, we just lost this one part of a best of 3 or this one huge thing just because they got 2 headshots with Widowmaker at the start of the game or something. So I mean that's just like a big issue in the future, I think, in terms of like maps they add to the game and how the game works and balancing it. Like no matter what, it's going to be a bit of an issue.
To a certain extent, I know these are really long maps and it's not as dramatic that you instantly win, but do you not like King's Row and Hollywood as much because those are cap points at the beginning? Do you feel like those can sometimes just like take you 5 minutes or you can instantly get it and it's kind of the same toss-up?
I don't think it's as big of a problem. Like you can't nearly get rolled the same way, and there's like the payload sections after the first points are longer than most of the other sections, so there's more time for the defense to have a chance to recover, whether that's like attacking them soon, quickly to like build their ults and then defend before the checkpoint, or making them pop their ults, or doing there's more opportunities to not get rolled like that. But it still happens sometimes on like King's Row. Part of that's just because of the way the map is. It's like this tight alley, so like Zarya can snowball you really easily on King's Row compared to many other maps. But in general, it's not nearly as difficult of a problem.
Right. All right. Well,
I don't know. I just want to say, it sounds like apps. It can eventually lead to the same problem that if they cap in the first second, like their first push works or their 5th push works because of the random element. I mean, your time is going to be 5 minutes better because of the first control point still. So it pretty much is the win off of that first control point.
I mean, it still makes a difference. It's still a big problem. Yeah. It's still a problem. Like, I mean, I'm not,
How about you just get better at holding it, dude?
Well, maybe there'll be like defensive setups that are just good against every kind of cheese or something, but I don't think that that's necessarily realistic in terms of like the way the game mechanics work with the way the classes interact with each other. So I think there's always going to be like a bit of that random element in terms of like you can have like an attacking comp that counters them basically. Which, obviously the game doesn't boil down to just that. Like the defenders can also, hit a couple shots and still win, or play a certain way and win or something. But like, it's not, I don't know. It's an issue. I mean, we don't really know for sure how it'll play out until things develop more and more. But it can happen. It could be a big problem, I think.
Well,
especially on those 2 CP maps. I don't think it's as big on the payload ones. So. Maybe they just need longer maps too than the 2 CPs. But
this is a giant another
hallway.
8. Yeah.
Let's add one gigantic
6 objective.
We needed the new dust. Yeah, just the Dust Bowl style.
And you only get like 30 seconds per cap point. Like you have to win.
That place, that choke for Temple of Anubis, the one that's like a doorway that looks like just like a slot. Then it's just be one giant hallway and 1 point at the very end. And it's 1 point on each end.
ARAM Overwatch.
I think they need an ARAM though. That's something that's kind of missing from the game. Like skirmish mode kind of sucks. Like it'd be better if there was just a DM style skirmish mode where you could actually just shoot around and like get used to playing or warm up or something.
Have a smaller map, yeah. Definitely smaller maps too, right?
How many maps are in the game right now?
There's 5 ones that have a payload and 3 2 CP.
Yeah, 8.
So there is technically two different game modes in Overwatch.
Well, technically 3, right?
I mean,
there's hybrid too.
Technically
but,
3,
yeah.
but okay.
Pretty much too. I do think they are probably working on another one. The thing is,
I can't wait to see more.
Lead me to assume they're testing a lot of different game modes, but excited to see whatever it is. That'll mix things right up.
I don't know. It's interesting because like they didn't want like 5 CP TF2 style because they didn't want to like limit the possibility of like defense focused classes. Obviously, like in comp TF2, you don't really run sniper very often, only in very specific parts or heavy or NG.
Yeah.
You might run them on GPIT though, like GPIT they're pretty standard, which makes sense, right? Because they want to have these characters be used, but I still, even in the current game, like it's still mobility is still way more powerful than Torbjorn or whatever. Well, and I'm not sure how that's ever going to change, really.
With how slow characters run in this game, 5 CP, I would not play.
Well, then you just have a Lucio. Like even then,
you'd have to have a
Lucio.
You
have a sniper on last in TF2, but you then they start walking slow, and it's harder to bring them to the next point. It's hard to bring heavies to the next point, but then you just Lucio them. Widowmaker has a grappling hook. I think you might still come into a same meta where everyone was still using Fat, and like everyone would be using Lucio. Obviously, there already are.
But at least it would force
so much. Like you still wouldn't use Torbjorn or Bastion much, probably not Symmetra, but most of the other characters that are played regularly would probably see play in 5 CP. Like I think that,
at least at this point in time,
basically everyone.
I want to see Koth. So, I think King of the Hill would be fun.
Yeah, you have a similar problem there too, to an extent. Like you capture the point, you're attacking, you capture the point, suddenly you're defending. Let's go back and switch characters.
So you want to see a Viaduct style Koth, basically, or
lock him in for Koth. You gotta lock your heroes.
I would still. I think it would work really well. I'd still like to see it. I don't know what they're gonna.
No,
do.
I think it'd be fun. Yeah, just time held, right, kind of thing. That'd be cool. All right, well, let's wrap things up. I think it was really great having you on here, oPlaiD. I mean, lots of great insight on the game and just meta and everything. So it was definitely a pleasure.
I have a closing statement.
All right,
for that
sure.
last topic.
Okay.
If TF2 released with Hydro, I think that they shouldn't be so worried about releasing a new game mode that is awful. I think they could get away with it.
Yeah, I'm kind of frustrated that we don't have like a 5 CP map to try in the beta. Like maybe people would love it, but they kind of said, internal testing
Bombs during beta had the no textured maps and everything. That was awesome just to see, like, before they put all the work in. Anyway.
Yeah, I really wish I could have played that game.
Anyway.
Just more experimentation. That's basically what we'd hope for. Why don't we do some shout outs? oPlaiD, you want to start us off?
Yeah, shout out to my team. Whatever you want to call them. I guess we're not Enigma. That's
the joke is continuing.
Carl couldn't put Enigma in the team name slot too because he already used it for his username. So that's how that came about. I registered us as Not Dummy for Ghosted Gamers, but they're like, well, we already have Not Enigma in our database, so we're going to change it. So I can do that, like,
doomed.
But
it's forever, man.
Also, shout out to the Daily Dot. It's where I write about esports. I've been writing a lot about Overwatch because I've been playing a lot of Overwatch, but I also write about other games like League of Legends, obviously, and Heroes of the Storm, and whatever other big events and tournaments are out there. Go to the dailydot.com/topic/esports to take a look at all of our esports content. And I'm also probably going to start my own competitive-focused Overwatch show with Rod Slasher Breslau, hopefully next week, I think titled Watchpoint. So you can tune into that if you want to hear me talk more about the game.
Awesome. Jerma, you want to go next?
Happy Thanksgiving to all of you that celebrated it. Big shout out to those that celebrated it. I was eating it.
I was eating
it.
All Thanksgiving.
I fell down. I ate it. I was eating it.
Oh man.
It was a holiday week, so obviously a lot of been kind of busy with the family, so not a whole lot of time to spend playing video games. But
shout out to the family. I was
shout out to the family, Ma. If you're watching right now, I know you are. Happy Thanksgiving. The turkey was great.
His mom loves Overwatch.
Oh, she loves
really?
her characters. May. She loves the freeze gun. Mm-hmm. She says, "Oh, Jeremy, I love this game." And I'm like, "Mom, I'm gonna get it for you for Christmas. It comes out in like June, but I'm gonna pre-order it for you, Ma." Thanksgiving.
15% off, man. You can pre-order right now on Amazon. Cyber Monday, man.
Cyber Monday. Get on it.
Ster, shout outs?
I never know who to shout out. I'll shout out to TC Hydro, and I forgot to shout out Seabass 3 years ago after a Highlander game. So shout out to Seabass.
Seabass.
What do you? Good shout outs.
That's all. I don't know.
TC Hydro.
Random shout outs. All right. No, just again, shout out to the three of you guys for doing the show today, all the viewers for watching, and particularly the ones that sent in questions. I wish I would have gotten to all of them. So those of you that didn't get your questions in this week, be sure to post them again next week, and I'll try to get to them. I'll try to prioritize the ones that we missed this week. But the VODs for the show, if you guys missed the beginning of it, will be on youtube.com/ChanManV. I'll be uploading it right after this. Audios are now on iTunes, so you can find that if you have an iPhone or any Apple product. It's also, I have a feed burner too. It's going to be on Stitcher too. So it being on feed burner generally, like a lot of the podcast apps will find it there. So just do a search for Overwatch or the overview, and you'll find it. And that's going to be it. We're trying out this time. I'm not sure, we're going to figure out between 1 p.m. and 8 p.m. It's just night and day. So trying to figure out what's going to be the best time for us. So you'll have to at least follow us on Twitter and make sure that, just to keep track of, like, I guess what time it's going to be. But it's going to be on Mondays. The overview will be on Mondays. So,
every Monday.
That's right. But for oPlaiD, Jerma, Ster, and myself, ChanManV, this is the overview. We'll see you next week. Later.
How?
Bye.